Welcome to Measurably Better Learning, the podcast built for learning and development professionals. Whether you're an instructional designer, L&D professional, or corporate leader, get ready for insights and ideas that will transform your approach to learning, training, and development. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Measurably Better Learning podcast, and today I'm joined by, as I am most of the time that we do this, Miriam, although we have other people on occasionally. I think we're sort of the core group.
Right, the core.
And we're in the middle of a series of conversations about learning science, and by that we mean things like psychology, sociology. The other podcasts are available if you want to think through them. Things like linguistics and consumer science and so on. But today our focus is on behavioral science. So let's start with what is behavioral science? I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory, but what is it? And then connect it to learning for us.
Yeah, no, you throw me a softball there. So,
yeah.
So with some of the other learning sciences we've talked about, we really do have to kind of draw that connecting tissue. But behavioral science, I mean, honestly, if you look at the history of learning, so much of it early on and for many centuries was mostly focused on just behavior, right? Changing behavior. Mm-hmm. That's what learning was.
Getting someone to do something.
Basically, exactly. So really, behavioral science is the study of human behavior, its underlying process, like your thoughts, your emotions, and actions, but using scientific methods to understand and then change, explain why people behave and then helping them positively change those. So there's a lot of overlap with cognitive science and psychology. I mean, this isn't standalone, certainly. It all kind of goes together.
It goes together, but it's complex.
It is.
Because someone knows something or is able to do something does not mean that they're going to do it.
As any parent of a 2-year-old knows.
Yeah, or
any child.
My children are in their 30s, right? And they struggle with the same thing. But knowing, doing, and believing and actually transitioning. And I think it sounds simple at first, but I think it's one of the most complex things that learning professionals think about. How do you get people to change their behavior? And there's a whole bunch of behaviors that they've had for a long time. Some of them might be bad habits. Some might be good habits that you want to reinforce. You have to get them. So yeah, walk us through it. It does sound like a lot of other learning sciences, but walk us through some of the particulars of it.
Sure. So, I mean, I think it's understanding at the beginning of time, we could talk about how do we make people change behavior? Well, it's a carrot or stick. And that's sort of the old analogy, right? Like if you do something wrong, you get beat, or if you do something right, you get some kind of reward.
Yeah,
right?
You've just described my upbringing, so I hope you're happy.
I know.
And now my facial tick is back.
But, I mean, I think it's been maybe in, I don't want to classify time, I guess, but I'd say, the last couple hundred years, but even in the last probably 50 years that we've started to recognize, no, like it's very complex. And to your point, we can make people change behavior, but outwardly, but maybe inwardly motivations are still, they're only doing it as, again, because we made them, that sort of.
Or you're being watched.
You're being watched,
and
so
the moment
you have
you're not
to.
being monitored anymore, you're going to go right back to.
Exactly. So
Yep.
I think it's just been more of a, past century kind of thing where behavioral scientists are really helping us understand all the different factors we need to get at in order to help somebody truly change their behavior and in a way that will also stick and not immediately change.
Yeah. All of the learning sciences are relatively human history-wise recent. I mean, psychology, sure, you can go back to Aristotle and, sociology. There's some principles, but even thinking about learning as a science and then thinking about all the sciences that feed into learning and how people acquire information and change their behavior, we are very early in I think, 50 years, 20 years from now, we may think about this very differently.
Right. And one of the things that I love about Ingenuity is that our learning team has a broad range of expertise. And so we always approach it from, what does the learner need to be able to do? Like what actions do they need to be able to take? But also what knowledge do they need to have, right? And then what attitudes do we need to help them change? And on any given learning experience that we're working on, all of those factors come into play.
Yeah.
And we try to obviously identify typically, if you're doing compliance training or some clearly skills-based training, it's more focused in one area. But at the end of the day, you haven't really done your learner justice. You really haven't demonstrated that you value them if that's all you're focused on. But by providing them the knowledge that they need, the facts, and then the skills that need to change, and then also sort of the attitudes and motivations, now what we're doing is we're equipping them really not just to do this task, but to problem solve, like higher order levels of thinking, right? Problem solve, come up with new ideas. And I think all of that plays into behavioral science when it's done in the right way.
Well, when we come back from our break, we're going to get into a more practical conversation about some of the learning strategies that connect to in our applications of behavioral science.
Imagine a world where every training session, every learning module, and every translated document is aligned with your company's unique goals and global ambitions. Welcome to Ingenuity, where we don't just talk about elevating your corporate learning, we make it happen. At Ingenuity, we understand the heart of your business is its people. That's why we specialize in creating custom learning solutions and translation services. They're not just effective, but are designed specifically for your business's global needs. Let us show you how learning cannot be just better, but measurably better, with solutions tailored just for you. Learn more in the description below.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So, Miriam, we had a good theoretical conversation in our first half, and you promised to change all of our lives behaviorally with your practical application of behavioral science as it connects to learning. So take us down that journey.
There's no promises here, but I can tell you what best practices are.
We'll take it.
Right.
And then whether or not I behaviorally choose to do them is up to me.
That's exactly right.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. So I think the one that by far is my top choice, I'll kind of stand on my soapbox about it, is what I call like spaced repetition. And I think as a whole, the learning industry does get this, and certainly in the past few years. But, learning used to be this one-time experience. It's a training room. Everybody shows up. You're told what you need to do. You're given a workbook, and you leave, and you file it in your desk, and you never see it again. But the concept of learning is never a one-time event, right? So I'm participating in some sort of pre-work where I'm kind of thinking about the issues. Then maybe I'm attending couple different, maybe it's e-learning, maybe it's an ILT, maybe it's a virtual ILT, whatever that is. And then 10 days later, I'm given a follow-up. Nudge is a big word right now, but it could be beyond that. I mean, in a perfect world, we're doing extensions. In 30 days, I'm given some sort of new situation that I have to apply the learning. So
problem to solve.
Yes, spaced repetition, consistently. I mean, I think we all know that, right? Like your behavior doesn't change unless you consistently, that's why memorization is great, right? But you have to repeat over and over and over again. So that's one.
Before you leave that one, I in the last 2 days, 2 different conversations, both on the same topic, both on using AI to have hard conversations. Mm-hmm. So you had the opportunity, they had pre-work, the work, the post-work, the infographic, the nudges, all that stuff. But you were given an opportunity to actually practice this, giving tough feedback to somebody who reports to you, or dealing with somebody on your team who's disruptive and carrying down the culture. And you're actually carrying on a live conversation with AI that at the end evaluates you on how well you did. And I've gone through it twice now. And I was
How'd you do?
I failed miserably. Yeah. I just want people to like me. I mean, I didn't want to have a hard conversation, but it was really interesting. You feel some of the pressure. Mm-hmm. You feel a little bit like it's really hard to say, but I think as AI comes in, especially in some of the soft skills, really is pretty cool.
AI is. I mean, I love it. Prior to AI, right? Like you and I, we've attended communication skills workshops and things like that. You can learn it all, and they split you into partners, and now you have to go do it, and everyone's sitting there like, what? Because you have to actually And so that's the one.
Can I just take a test on this? Because I could probably pass it.
Exactly. That's the wonderful thing about AI is that constant practice, which again, spaced repetition. And I can get used to the nuances and the different feedback until I can get it right. So,
and you're trying to draw back on what did I learn? What should I work? Which of the principles is applicable right now? So, all right, let's go to some others.
Sure. Well, so behavioral modeling is another one. And I think that AI, again, is a place where this could fit in. Because if you say behavioral modeling, my mind immediately leaps to it's an in-person situation, right? Somebody's being taught a skill. You know, we've done training for a couple different fast food restaurants. Yeah. And while we do some, pre-e-learning kind of a thing, the fact of the matter is you have to stand at the French fry, the hot grease area, and somebody's showing you how to do it, and then you have to do it over and over. But AI is starting to also open the door to be able to do some of that practice. But I think we don't want to get rid of like that modeling aspect. We live in a digital world, but there's absolutely certain things that have to be done in person, and they have to be done. And one thing we often find with clients who have situations where they do a lot of skill modeling is that I just ran into this earlier last year it was a coffee shop kind of, just a drive-through. Well, the manager was just supposed to train, and so there's a list of topics, but depending on which manager you got a totally different experience, right? So
some bad.
Absolutely, and some amazing because that person understood nuances and can give you little tips. But so creating, when we say behavioral modeling, I don't just mean like, hey, go watch the manager for 10 minutes. I mean like there's a checklist and there's a walkthrough for that manager, exactly how they need to teach it. Tools like that will make everyone, and it just makes the it more consistent across the organization.
Yeah. How about others?
Well, another one that I think I just we should think about, but in the heat of the moment we don't, which is shaping the environment in a way that people can really learn more effectively. Again, it doesn't just have to apply to an in-person situation, but when you're talking about changing behaviors, again, I will not name the university, but you and I are familiar. Gorgeous new building. All the classrooms it was all like one wall was entirely glass. Gorgeous, unless you were the instructor, because nobody was paying attention. Anybody, anytime anyone walked to the restroom to get a snack, whatever. And so that's a tiny example, but creating an environment where people can be focused, and you don't think about that in terms of behavior, but it really is. It's setting up an environment where people can learn the best that they possibly can in the best environment.
And when you walk into that environment, your brain shifts, your thinking shifts, the set of expectations shift, and so good. All right. Well, Miriam, again, thank you for sharing your insights on behavioral science and the learning sciences, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right.
Before we wrap up the show, if you're looking to dive deeper, we've got tons of free downloads, L&D resources, and details about upcoming webinars that you won't want to miss. They're found in the episode description. Plus, if you ever want to chat with either one of us, now's your chance. You can find links in the episode description to connect directly with Miriam or me. We're here to answer your questions and to discuss all things learning and development. And speaking of questions, we love hearing from you. Whether it's a question or a comment or a topic you're curious about, or if you just want to join the conversation, drop us a comment on your favorite social media channel. Your input shapes our shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. It's the best way to ensure you never miss out on our latest episode. We're excited to continue to transform learning into a measurable success with you. Until next time.